The airport was loud and crowded, just like it always was during school breaks. People rushed past each other, dragging heavy suitcases and checking phones. Children cried. Announcements echoed over the speakers every few minutes. Maria Torres stood near the entrance with her two kids. One hand gripped the handle of a stroller, the other held their boarding passes. Her son, Javier, was 6. Her daughter, Lily, was 4. Both were tired and cranky, but Maria smiled at them softly. "Almost there," she whispered, brushing Lily's curls from her face. "We just need to get through security." Maria wore a plain gray hoodie and old jeans. Her hair was tied back, and she had no makeup on. Nothing about her stood out. Most people who passed probably thought she was just a tired mom traveling alone. And she was a mom. A good one. But she was also more than that. Something no one here could see. The stroller wheels squeaked as she pushed it toward the security line. The line was long and slow, and people were growing impatient. A man in a suit tapped his foot loudly. A woman sighed so hard it sounded like a growl. Maria didn't complain. She focused on keeping her kids calm. She handed them snacks from her backpack and pointed out planes they could see through the big glass windows. "Look, that one's flying to New York," she told Javier. "Are we going there?" he asked. "No, buddy. We're going to visit Grandma." "Oh," he said. "I hope she has cookies." Maria smiled again. She always does. As they finally reached the front of the line, Maria took a deep breath. Traveling alone with kids was never easy, but she had done much harder things in her life. She had faced fear, pain, even war. Still, no one here knew that. Not yet. They only saw a tired mom. And soon, some of them would treat her like she didn't matter at all. Maria guided her kids toward the security area, holding their little hands tightly. Her backpack was heavy, and the stroller felt harder to push now. Still, she kept moving. A tall TSA agent stood near the checkpoint. He looked bored and a little annoyed, like he didn't want to be there. As Maria got closer, he narrowed his eyes. "You need to take those kids out of the stroller," he said sharply. "Yes, sir," Maria replied calmly. She unbuckled Lily and picked her up. "Javi, hold my hand." The agent crossed his arms. "All carry-ons in the bin. Shoes off, even for the kids." Maria nodded again, working quickly while keeping her kids from wandering. Javier started asking questions. "Why do we take off shoes? Will they lose them?" "Just for safety, sweetie," Maria answered. Behind them, the line grew longer. People started to mumble and sigh. "Come on, lady," a man behind her said loudly. "Some of us don't have all day." Maria looked back and gave a small, polite smile. "Sorry, almost done." But the TSA agent wasn't done. "You're holding up the line," he snapped. "You should have been ready." Maria froze for a moment. She had seen this tone before. Sharp, judging. She stayed quiet and lifted the stroller onto the belt with one hand, still holding Lily with the other. The agent rolled his eyes. "Can't travel alone and handle your kids. Maybe you should have stayed home." Maria's face burned. She looked down at her children, who were watching everything. She wanted to say something strong, but she stayed silent. A few people chuckled behind her. A businessman in a fancy coat leaned toward another man and whispered, "Some people really shouldn't be parents." Maria heard him. Her chest felt tight, but she kept her face calm. As her bag rolled through the scanner, another officer checked it and made a comment. "What's this?" "Baby food. Ma'am, you're only allowed a certain amount of liquid. Next time read the rules." Maria nodded. "It's for my daughter. She's 4. You'll have to wait while we test it," he said, without looking at her. Maria sat with her kids off to the side, while the line moved on without them. Her son leaned against her arm. "Why was that man so mean, Mommy?" he asked softly. She kissed his forehead. "Sometimes people don't understand us. That's all." But inside, Maria's heart ached, not because of the long wait, not because of the stroller or the bags, but because they didn't see her, not really. They saw a struggling mother, and decided that was all she was. And that hurt more than anything. Maria sat quietly in the waiting area near the gate. Her kids were eating goldfish crackers from a small bag she had packed. She watched them closely, feeling the ache in her shoulders and the tightness in her chest. She wasn't angry, not exactly. It was something deeper, a heavy, sad feeling that sat inside her like a rock. She had been treated like this before, too many times. People saw a woman and a mother, and thought weak. They saw soft eyes and gentle hands, and thought unimportant. They didn't see the years she spent overseas, the nights she stayed awake listening for danger, or the medals folded away in a wooden box back home. Once, during training, a younger male soldier had said, "You don't look like a captain." Maria had smiled and said, "What does a captain look like to you?" He had no answer, and now, here she was, in a busy airport, being looked at like she didn't belong, like she didn't matter, but she couldn't lose her cool, not in front of her kids. She glanced at Javier. He was drawing on the back of a napkin with a broken crayon. Lily was curled up beside her, sucking her thumb. They needed her to be strong, not loud, not angry, just strong, so she stayed quiet, not because she agreed with the way they treated her, but because she knew something they didn't. She knew who she was, and even if no one else in that airport did, she hadn't forgotten. An hour passed. The flight was delayed again. A voice on the speaker said something about a maintenance issue. People groaned all around Maria. Javier lay across two seats, playing with his toy car. Lily was dozing off in her lap. Maria rocked her gently, rubbing her back. Then her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. It was a name she knew well, Colonel Hastings, her commander. Maria shifted Lily carefully, and stood up. She walked a few steps away, where it was quieter. She answered in a low voice. "Captain Torres speaking." The voice on the other end was firm and familiar. "Captain, I need a quick update. The report on the convoy route is missing details. Did your unit send the final review?" "Yes, sir," Maria replied, her voice calm but strong. "The files were delivered yesterday. I can resend them when I land, sir." "Understood," the colonel said. "And good job last week. We were impressed with your leadership on the training drills." Maria felt a small smile. "Thank you, sir." She hung up the phone just as someone nearby turned his head. It was a young soldier in uniform, sitting 2 rows away. He had short hair, a backpack by his feet, and a National Guard patch on his arm. He looked at her with wide eyes. "Excuse me," he said, standing up. "Did you say Captain Torres?" Maria nodded, a little surprised. He straightened and gave her a respectful salute. "Ma'am, I served under Colonel Hastings last year. I heard your name during briefing reports." "It's an honor." A few people nearby turned their heads. Maria returned a polite nod, her voice steady. "Thank you, soldier. What's your unit?" As they talked briefly, whispers began around them. The man in the fancy coat, who had mocked her earlier, looked up from his seat, confused. The TSA agent from before walked past, pausing when he saw the salute. Javier looked up from his seat and called out, "Mommy, why did that man do the hand thing?" Maria walked back to her kids and sat down. "That's called a salute," she said softly. "It's something soldiers do." Javier's eyes grew wide, like in the movies. Maria just nodded. She didn't explain more. She didn't need to. The quiet strength in her voice said enough. The whispering at the gate grew louder. People glanced at Maria, then back at their phones, then back at her again. Something had shifted. The tired mom with messy hair was now someone else in their eyes. The young soldier sat near Maria's row, still watching her with respect. "I read about what you did in Kandahar," he said. "You led a convoy through a red zone, and got all your people out." Maria gave him a quiet look. "We all got each other out." He smiled. Still, that was leadership. A few seats down, the businessman, the same one who had said mothers like her shouldn't travel alone, was typing on his laptop, but he kept glancing up. His face had changed. It was no longer smug. It looked uneasy. A teenage girl with a phone in hand whispered to her mom, "I think she's in the military." Then she tapped on her screen and began searching something. The girl suddenly gasped, "Mom, look." She held up her phone. A picture of Maria appeared on a news site. It showed her in full uniform, standing with a group of soldiers in front of an armored vehicle. The headline read, Army Captain Maria Torres, saves entire unit, after ambush in Afghanistan. People began murmuring again. Now it wasn't laughter or judgment, it was surprise and awe. The TSA agent from earlier came back around, pretending to check something on the wall. His eyes met Maria's for a second. He looked away quickly. The businessman finally stood up. He walked over slowly. I didn't know, he said, his voice softer than before. I'm sorry for what I said earlier. Maria looked at him. Her face was calm, unreadable. I didn't tell you who I was, she replied. But I also shouldn't have had to. He swallowed hard and nodded. You're right, the gate agent announced. Boarding for families with small children. Maria stood, packed up the snacks, and helped Lily into the stroller. Javier walked beside her. As they reached the front of the line, the same soldier who had saluted her stepped forward and helped carry her backpack. Let me get that, ma'am, he said. Maria smiled kindly. Thank you. As she walked down the jet bridge, people watched her pass. Some smiled, others looked embarrassed. A few nodded in respect. But Maria didn't walk any faster or stand any taller than before. She had always been this person. Strong, brave, kind. They were just seeing it now. The plane took off smoothly. The engines hummed as the clouds floated by outside the window. Maria sat in her seat with Lily resting on her shoulder, and Javier playing quietly with his toy. The moment was peaceful, but inside, her heart still felt heavy. She thought about what had happened at the airport, the rude comments, the judging stares, the way people looked at her before they knew her title. It hurt. Not because she needed attention or wanted people to be impressed. She didn't care about praise. She had seen enough of the world to know that real strength didn't need loud words. What hurt was that people still judged so quickly. They looked at a woman alone with kids, and decided she wasn't capable. They saw tired eyes, and thought weak. They saw motherhood, and thought less than. Maria leaned her head back, and closed her eyes for a moment. She didn't regret staying quiet earlier. She did it to protect her children, to stay calm, to stay steady. That was strength too. But she also wished the world could see mothers. All mothers, with the respect they deserved, uniform or not. Mom, Javier whispered, tugging at her arm. She opened her eyes. Yes, sweetheart. I'm really proud of you. Maria blinked, her eyes filled with sudden warmth. Thank you, Javi. Are you proud of you? He asked. She smiled and kissed his forehead. I think I am. Lily stirred in her sleep and snuggled closer. Maria looked out the window again. The sky was wide and open, like her thoughts. A part of her still felt sad, but another part felt strong. Maybe not everyone understood her, but her children did. And that was enough. The plane landed just after sunset. The airport lights blinked outside the window. As the wheels touched down, passengers clapped softly, then started gathering their things. Maria stood up slowly, helping Javier with his backpack, and lifting Lily into her arms. They walked off the plane quietly. A few passengers gave Maria small nods as they passed. A woman near the front smiled, and said, "Thank you for your service." Maria nodded in return, saying nothing more. Outside the gate, the crowd moved fast again. Everyone seemed in a hurry to get somewhere, but Maria moved with calm steps, steady and quiet, like always. She didn't need people to notice her anymore. She had done her duty, not just as a captain, but as a mother. They reached the baggage claim, and Maria bent down to tie Javier's shoelace. As she stood, she felt a tap on her shoulder. It was the same young soldier from earlier. He had come off a different exit. "Captain," he said, "I just wanted to say thank you for showing me what leadership looks like. Not just in the field, but everywhere." Maria gave him a small, thoughtful smile. "You don't always need to shout to be heard," she said. He nodded, understanding, and walked away. Maria watched her kids chase each other around the baggage carousel. She laughed quietly, and shook her head. Just a mom, just a soldier, just a woman doing her best. She picked up her bags and headed toward the exit, her children by her side. No medals, no uniform, no speech, just quiet strength. Because sometimes the strongest people don't need to prove anything. Sometimes they just hold a child's hand and walk forward.